One of the earliest descriptions of Jar-Kai was provided in the article The Dark Forces Saga, Part 4 of the Crudest Matter on Wizards.com. Jar-Kai is the traditional name applied to the style of lightsaber combat that uses a blade in each hand, frequently called Naiman, the name of Form 6, by savvy modern practitioners, since that form is the current Jedi standard. Jar-Kai is the style's oldest name, going back to the Yavshan swordsmen of the Atrecian Empire, who wielded a dueling sword in each hand, dubbing the weapons Jar-Kai after the Kittle Fard city where they were first crafted. A similar style was practiced by the Royal Macheteros, the elite guard of the Kashmir monarchy. When the technique was then co-opted by soldiers of the legions of Letau, they called the style Naiman, after the dual triumvirate of Kashi gods. As detailed in the article Dark Forces Part 4 of The Crudest Matter, Jar-Kai predated the invention of the lightsaber, and changed hands several times before being picked up by the Jedi Order, who adapted it for the lightsaber and made it one of the major components in the hybrid Form 6 lightsaber combat. As a result of this connection, Form 6, which was also called Naiman, was frequently mastered as a preliminary discipline before diving into classical Jar-Kai. Form 4 lightsaber combat, called Ataru, also boasted a dedicated dual weapon component, and is often mastered as a Jar-Kai preliminary, which leads me to believe that Ataru was also derived from Jar-Kai. The use of two blades in combat provided improved offensive and defensive coverage, a higher rate of attacks, and a greater ability to contend with multiple adversaries, one blade to reinforce the other. Due to the greater attention needed to balance out between two blades, Jar-Kai's technical focus outweighed its force focus, which compromised the duelist's ability to employ force abilities. It was a powerful force wielder indeed who could maintain the technical focus without reducing the force focus. As a way of accounting for this limitation, many students of Jar-Kai chose to use Shoto short lightsabers as their offhand weapon, as the smaller blades were easier to handle and didn't demand nearly as much attention. To accommodate the weapon variation, Jar-Kai had multiple different techniques intended to use each blade for different purposes. One for offense and the other for defense, both for the same, switching between various stances, etc. In order to maneuver the two blades, Jar-Kai employed a strong physical gymnastic component, keeping the body in alignment with each blade as they shifted position. The various disciplines were flexible enough to incorporate this component into combat, allowing for integrated unarmed combat techniques. For this reason, Jar-Kai practitioners were often deadly unarmed fighters, applying their ability to coordinate multiple weapons to their hands and feet for intricate attack sequences. The Jar-Kai technique could also be taken in the opposite direction, adapted for a higher number of weapons. General Grievous employed Jar-Kai with 4 lightsabers. The Priapulan Jedi Master Skeweli employed it with 6. Alternatively, Darth Maul studied Jar-Kai to prepare for the saber staff, learning to maintain awareness of both blades and use them in combination more effectively. Fallen Jedi Master Pong Krell took this another step by dual-wielding saber staffs. While Jar-Kai could be employed effectively with virtually any weapon set, it could be compromised by the loss of one of the weapons, as the form was so focused on coordinating multiple weapons that it didn't address how to make do with one. The use of integrated physical combat and force-based telekinetic strikes as replacement secondary weapons is likely where Naiman originated. Therefore, the most dangerous Jar-Kai specialists were the ones who supplemented it with Naiman, combining integrated telekinetic strikes with dual blades. And after that, factor in Ataru, with its dedicated physical combat element and stronger acrobatic component. The most commonly seen dual weapon stance was a composite guard position, one blade held out in front in a parry position, the other held in a backhand attack position, prepped for a thrust. There are many variations on this basic position, based on changing out the blade positions. The alternative dual forward stance had similar variations. 2 of the live combat maneuvers of Jar-Kai were identified in the Jedi Academy training manual. The first is the Rising Whirlwind, a corkscrew maneuver where the duelists propel themselves up from a crouch, slashing wildly in all directions. The second is the Twin Strikes, a heavy power attack delivered with both blades simultaneously. Employing power blows with dual blades called for exceptional strength, as each blade could only be wielded with a single hand. Given that Jar-Kai was originally developed by non-Force sensitives, its disciplines were obviously something that would be attainable for someone not touched by the Force, likely achieving a form of meditation through an absolute focus on the physical technique. While this mindset was almost diametrically opposed to the Jedi emphasis on subsumation into the Force, it could be used as an alternate path to the same destination, one focused on the control aspect, the Force as it moves within our bodies, using this connection to guide the physical technique. Darth Maul and the Starkiller clone are both described as entering into fighting trances, intensely focused on their weapons, performing their moves instinctively. Anakin Skywalker originally studied Nyman to develop his skills with Jar-Kai, but against Count Dooku on Geonosis, he employed the Ataru variant. The Attack of the Clones novelization describes his application as follows. Anakin caught it without ever breaking the flow of his fighting, turning it under and igniting it immediately, putting it into the swirling flow. Obi-Wan watched in admiration as Anakin worked the 2 blades in perfect harmony, spinning them over and about with blinding speed and precision. Count Dooku's assessment of Anakin's Jar-Kai technique was much more critical than Obi-Wan Kenobi's, considering it to be a sad attempt. Dooku had a similarly dim view of Squelly's 6th lightsaber form, pointing out the Jedi Master's sloppy form and lackluster footwork. This critical viewpoint was due in large part to the Count's contempt for dual weapon fighting in general. His precise thoughts are presented in the novel Labyrinth of Evil. The only aspect of Grievous's technique that vexed him more was the General's penchant for using 4 blades. 2 was bad enough, in the form they had been used by Darth Maul, or in Anakin Skywalker's sad attempt to employ the technique on Geonosis. But 3? What was to become of elegance and gallantry if a duelist couldn't make do with 1 blade? General Grievous's fighting style was built around capitalizing on his cybernetic enhancements, the full extent of which is described in the Revenge of the Sith novelization. The electro drivers powering Grievous's mechanical arms let each of the 4 attack thrice in a single second, integrated by combat algorithms in the Biodroid's electronic network of peripheral processors. Each of the 12 strikes per second came from a different angle with a different speed and intensity, an unpredictably broken rhythm of slashes, chops, and stabs, of which every single one could take Obi-Wan's life. Exar Kun achieved a similar functionality with his heavily customized saber staff, his precise technique described in the Essential Guide to Weapons and Technology. The Dark Jedi wielded the saber much as he would a quarterstaff, using 1 blade to block incoming attacks, then quickly spinning the hand grip to use the second blade to strike a killing blow against his opponent. Customized controls allowed him to adjust each blade's length from half a meter to 1.5 meters. Panels controlled each blade's intensity. At its highest setting, a blade was like any other lightsaber, with the ability to cut through dense materials such as armor plating and durasteel with virtually no resistance. At the lowest power setting, a blade became a simple shaft of light, delivering no damage and providing no resistance against incoming lightsaber attacks. By abruptly shortening a blade or dropping it to the lowest power setting, Kun tricked his opponents into overextending themselves during attacks, giving him an opportunity for a deadly counterstrike. By coupling these tactics with his Force abilities to predict the actions of his opponents, Kun became virtually unstoppable in combat. It is my belief that Kun's ability to remain aware of each blade's settings was based on his application of the Jarkai mentality, coordinating the blades as separate entities. In addition to serving as the basis for the dual blade components in Ataru and Naiman, Jarkai could be easily combined with the other 5 forms. Kit Fisto demonstrated a Shicho variant in the TCW episode Lair of Grievous. Asajj Ventress employed a Makashi variant throughout her appearances in TCW. Komari Vosa was credited with employing a Surisu variant in Darth Maul Lockdown, and demonstrated it in the video game Star Wars Bounty Hunter. Ahsoka Tano employed a Shien variant in the later seasons of TCW after she adopted dual blades. Darth Malgus employed an obvious Gemso variant in the Tor Return cinematic trailer. Darth Maul and Darth Sidious employed Juyo variants against one another in the TCW episode The Lawless. Obi-Wan Kenobi employed the Ataru variant in the TCW episode Revival, while the Naiman variant was best demonstrated by Kaosen Durach in the Return trailer. The Starkiller clone provided the best demonstration of a total Jarkai mastery built on the back of both Ataru and Naiman in the video game The Force Unleashed 2.